I could easily at least 2x your progress with the tips I'm gonna give you in this video. Because if you're an intermediate or even a beginner pianist, you don't have an idea of how inefficiently you're practicing. And I know, because this is me at 15, and this is me at 18. And the only difference between these two is that when I was 15, I took the courage to step to my piano teacher and I told him, I'm loving classical music so much, I want to improve as fast as possible. And he confidently told me, okay, no problem. Here's what you're gonna do. The first thing you're gonna do is practice one Bach daily. And that's my first piece of advice I want to give you. Because I used to think, playing Bach is so boring, I would never listen to his music. Because I can tell you, I used to play the organ. And the reason I quit the organ to play the piano is because I loved romantic music. But the thing with Bach is he's the basis of all Western classical music. Any composer you like, base his music on that of Bach. If you play Bach, you will understand the structure better. And the thing with music theory is you can practice it, but to actually recognize it, I don't think there's a better way to do it while playing Bach. And it only took me like 1 or 2 months before I actually started enjoying it so much. I think Bach's a great composer because it's intellectually stimulating. The reason is because most of his pieces are like fugue-like pieces, which basically means there's multiple voices playing at the same time. But it's very tricky to hear this. Now, let me give you some actionable advice. If you're a beginner, you should pick some of his little preludes. I'll put recommendations on top. For an intermediate pianist, I would go towards his inventions, which have 2 voices already, which is doable, 1 voice in each hand. But then, starting from a little more like late advanced, early intermediate are his sinfonias, which are basically 3-part pieces. And then for advanced, once you've reached the final level, let's say, are his well-tempered clavier, which have 4 voices, sometimes 3, but they're all very difficult pieces. So pick a piece at your level and start practicing it. What I must mention is Bach really humbles you. His pieces might seem easy because there's not that many notations and it's very easily recognizable, but he is so much more difficult than he seems. Because this is how you should practice Bach. You're not going to use pedal and you're going to play at a slow tempo, and it's all about clarity. And there's no rubato in Bach, so the thing is, it's so amazing. And now let me tell you how to actually practice Bach. You should not use pedal, never, not in the beginning, not in the end. Unless you're already more advanced, you can use a little bit of pedal, but for now, definitely don't. And you're going to keep a stable tempo. And these two work so well because it's things that are often ignored in Chopin, which makes it able to mask a lot of mistakes. You can play a nocturne without good technique, but because you're using pedal and you're claiming rubato for a lot of changes, it's okay. But with Bach, it isn't. The goal is clarity, so you can hear both voices in the hand. And it also develops your ear in a way that's just not possible with any other composer. Because you could be practicing lists for so long and you never really hear the voice in the left hand. But if you're playing Bach, it's so clear when a pianist hears a left hand and when they don't, because there's a clear melody. And if you practice Bach, this will transfer to any other style of music you would like. So I can't encourage you enough, just pick up a Bach piece at your level and start practicing it. And this brings me to the second thing that a lot of intermediate or beginner pianists say they struggle with. I'm not reading fast enough. That's why my piano teacher told me you're gonna play 1 Bach a week. You're gonna get more repetitions, your motivation is gonna stay higher, and you will improve faster. And that's another thing with Bach, is that because his music is simplistic in a way, he doesn't add all of these extra unnecessary markings and doesn't make it overly complex to read, and it's one of the best ways you're going to get faster at reading pieces. And obviously this is one of the best things you can do to skyrocket your progress, because you don't even realize how efficiently these professional pianists are able to practice. And there's a story of Martha Argerich, which is an elite level pianist who learned Gaspard de la Nuit in 6 days, which is a 20-minute piece, which is seen as one of the most difficult pieces in classic repertoire, which is insane. And when somebody told her it's insane, she actually answered, "Oh, I had no idea it's such a difficult piece." And usually the biggest bottleneck for playing pieces is reading speed. And the best way to do this usually is to just bring down the level of difficulty of the pieces you're playing. And for Bach, for example, learn a piece you could play in a week. And learning means reading the piece, refining the piece, and memorizing the piece. Not just sort of reading the piece, you want to go through the full way to practice. And you should do this with other pieces too. While obviously if you're practicing a romantic piece, I could argue 2 weeks to learn it should be fine, but don't go much above that. And obviously there's arguments to be made that, this isn't necessary and I'm just playing for fun. And okay, I have nothing to say if you enjoy spending 6 months to learn a piece that's far above your difficulty, but trust me, if you do this, you will barely improve. Don't trust YouTubers who are telling you, yeah, you should play this because you will push past the plateau. In my experience and in all the things I've heard, it's just not true. And I've seen a lot of people do this around me, other pianists, and it could be fun in the moment, but you will stay stuck. It's not worth it. And at the end, you won't even be able to play that piece, which then sucks even more, which eventually at the end, if you want to play it properly, you will have to go back to the beginning and build the bass up anyways. There's just no other way to do it than to build up gradually. Obviously, sometimes you can grasp, but just understand the further you go beyond your ability, the less improvement you will see. And just in general, there's so many clear benefits. You will memorize better, you will read faster, your technique will improve faster, because everything you do at a low level that's understandable and you build up is just a lot easier for you to understand. And with this goes that your technique will improve much faster, which is the second thing my piano teacher told me about. And you should understand this as well. The first bottleneck is usually reading speed, and the second bottleneck is piano technique. Because just be honest with yourself. What's your goal? You want to play these difficult pieces eventually, right? What's stopping you? Not ear training, not hearing the music better, some music theory. What's actually stopping you right now is, first, obviously, you're not able to read it fast enough. But secondly, is your technique is just not good enough. You can't play these difficult passages at a high speed. And there's a lot of ways to practice technique, and a lot of it just comes from a lot of experience. But the best way to do so is to add in some warm-ups or some technique drills. And once again, you can go as hard as you want in this. You could be adding 50% of your practice time as a technique warm-up. And I don't really like to call these warm-ups, I usually never use this word, because they're not really meant for your practice sessions to go smoother. I mean, that's a consequence, but they're meant to build your technique, to build stronger fingers, and eventually as you learn about piano, everything else will go smoothly. But the first thing you need to do is to practice finger technique. And for that, just check the first link in the description. I've made this document where I just tell you what you need to practice, what exercises to choose, and in what way to do it. It's completely free, so definitely check that out. So for now, you know to practice more Bach, pick pieces that are below your difficulty, and that your bottlenecks are probably reading speed and piano technique. But I want to tell you more about how to actually go about practicing while you've picked your piece. And I won't bother wasting your time with slow practice. Oh, practice hands separate, left hand first, then right, or use a metronome. Because if you're already not doing this, 99% of you already probably know this. And if you still haven't applied this, I just think you don't really want to improve that much, because they're easy to implement and they just work extremely well. What I want to tell you now is that every time you play a piece, you should play as relaxed as possible. And this should be your goal at all time. Unless you're doing technique practices, but while practicing, you should play the piece and don't use any extra tension. Don't lift your fingers over the keys. Play very relaxed. And don't worry that you're not getting the final result, as sometimes there's some dynamics changes, meaning you want to play louder or softer, and there's a lot of things you might hear as your musicality develops that you want to implement. But just bother with playing relaxed. And I promise you, even within a few months looking back, this will give you the biggest benefit to your piano technique. Because the basis that all technique is built upon is to have a lack of tension. And there's no shortcut besides just spending hours at the piano playing extremely relaxed. So this was a very short video because I really believe there's not much to be said about this. You just have to trust me on this, implement these, maybe for a month, and you will see much faster improvement. Record a video of yourself today, play whatever you want, and then implement these steps, playing more Bach, pick pieces below your difficulty that take you 1 week to practice fully, then start adding a technique drill in, and practice with more relaxation. If you do all of this, I guarantee you your progress will at least 2x, maybe even 5x, depending on how inefficiently you're practicing now. So don't make up any excuses why it doesn't work for you, and just try it for a month, and you'll be hooked for the rest of your piano playing. Don't forget to check the first link in the description. Thanks for watching.